I think they would. I think they really like Desmond Ridder. So like
they're serious about this now.
Yes.
Okay.
The Patriots really want Ridley, from what people are telling me. I think the chances of the Falcons getting that 21st pick from the Patriots are, in terms of, overall trade percentages, that's the one that's most likely to happen, in my opinion, is the Patriots trade for Ridley.
What would the Falcons take for Matt Ryan?
I would say the minimum offer is a first this year and then a conditional first next year.
Wow. Really?
Yeah.
Okay. So if they don't get a first round draft pick, they're not trading him.
No, they won't just do it. I don't really think they want to. If they bring back Patterson, I think they're looking for someone to sort of take on the running role that's going to be the primary ball carrier, rusher. Obviously, I think they'd like to get guys that can do more than just run the ball, but I think you'll see them target a more of a physical grinder type of guy. This is sort of a sneaky need, and I think they would actually consider it on day 2 because of this tight end class. This is not a class that has Kyle Pitts, but this is a class that has 6 or 7 guys that could all be really good tight end 2s, maybe even tight end 1s. Like, they want someone cheap to play the slot. So Gage would have to be an outside guy. He showed that he could do that. He did it a lot as the year went on. So he does fit in this offense. But again, I think we've seen the archetype that Arthur Smith wants, and he prefers the big body guys. That's his preference.
All right, the offensive line. Now I look at this offensive line. They were very durable, which was nice.
Yeah,
it's always nice when you're
the only nice thing you could say, but
yeah, I guess okay.
I would consider drafting 2 edges, one at 8 and then one again on day 2, because this is a super deep class. I'm all in on Jermaine Johnson. I'd take him at 8 in a heartbeat. I don't think Pro Football Focus, I don't really like their linebacker grades at all. I've never really thought their linebacker grades were good. I think they have good grades for a lot of things, but I've never really believed in their linebacker grades. They know this team needs depth. They would love to get extra picks. So I think they would definitely consider a trade down. That's probably one of the things they're seriously working on if their top guys aren't there at 8.
It's now time to talk Atlanta Falcons football as we gear that much closer towards NFL free agency, just a couple of weeks away. And of course, that means about another 6 weeks after that, the NFL draft. So for fan bases like the New York Jets and the Atlanta Falcons,
Yes.
This is our time of year, fortunately. Yep. I can't wait.
Hope springs eternal. Yeah.
Yes. One of these days, it won't be that way, but what are you going to do? Okay. Yep. So, Kevin, the offseason. Well, you know what? I want to ask you, because we hadn't talked about this since the end of last season. Grade your first-year head coach, Arthur Smith, and he runs the offense, correct?
Correct. He calls the plays.
And first-year defensive coordinator, longtime coach, Dean Pease. Grade those 2 guys.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say as a whole, the team gets like a C. I think they performed better on the field than their roster suggested, but the roster was very bad. I mean, it was in contention. I would say.
Yes.
If not for Matt Ryan, that's a team that's winning, 3-4 games max. Probably not even that many. So Matt Ryan, obviously, if you've got a franchise quarterback, you can't be that bad. And I think that on the defensive side in particular, I think Dean Pease got a lot out of a very, very, very limited defensive group. Obviously, his scheme was awesome for A.J. Terrell, who became one of the best corners in the NFL with no pass rush. The Falcons had the worst pass rush in the NFL, and it's really a testament to Terrell how much he was able to grow and succeed despite the Falcons having 17 sacks or something all year. So the pass rush was awful, but, I think the secondary, they got by with a lot of sort of guys. Fabian Moreau was solid signed for like $1 million. Eric Harris, Deron Harmon, I mean, they were solid. So the secondary was fine. Rest of the defense, pretty mediocre. And then on offense, it was sort of just death by 1,000 cuts that eventually took that unit down from being early in the year. It was like, oh, this is probably like an above average offense. It quickly became worse once Calvin Ridley stepped away. And they didn't have enough punches left. The offensive line was really poor. They really didn't spend any money in free agency at all. I mean, it was all 1-year deals. They signed
How's
one
the cap
player
space right now, because it looks on paper it doesn't look good.
It's fine. It's nowhere near as bad as last year. It obviously they're negative a little bit.
Are they going to cut anybody?
Yes. Yeah. Unlike last year, they do have some easy options to get under the cap and create room. The three guys they're going to move on from almost certainly. Tyler Davison, the defensive tackle, just doesn't really fit the 3-4 as well. He's more of a 4-3 one tech. And he got exposed a little bit when asked to, two gap as a 3-4 nose, and it's not really his game. He's still a good player. He'll probably get a deal elsewhere, but I think the Falcons save almost $4 million by cutting him, so they're going to do that. Mike Davis, the running back, was fine, but he's a running back and he's making like over $3 million, so they're going to probably cut him to save a couple million there. Okay. And then Kendall Sheffield, the corner, on the final year of his rookie deal, he saves $2.5 million. With his cut, hasn't really done anything for the team, especially not last year. So he's an easy one too. Those are the three easy ones, and they're going to have to do more creative stuff to free up more space. But they have some good options if they want to do that.
All right. So I mentioned this with Cole Thompson, who covers the Texans, and I'll mention this through this process of previewing the draft and free agency with these 10 teams. Actually, I'm responsible for 11 teams for the Our-Lads 2022 NFL Draft Guide, and Kevin, of course, has done a great job helping me to educate myself to the roster and, of course, the depth charts, which are the best in the business at Our-Lads. But it's more than just what the depth chart looks like. It's behind the depth chart as far as those players are concerned, and that's why I try to get Kevin on as much as possible, especially before the guide comes out and I have to put these reports together. So before I even did any sort of real intensive homework, I was going through the draft process first, just for every team, as far as because I had to put that together first. Is all right. Who's coming out position wise and all that kind of stuff. Then I decided, okay, now let me zero in on what I looked at each roster, including these 10, 11 teams that I'm talking about, and just go a brief kind of. I basically just put like a brief little note by each position, so I'll kind of familiarize myself before I start getting an intensive education that you're about to give me. So here is what I wrote for each position, and I'm going to start with the position. And again, this is just a first draft. So I'm going to start with the positions that to me might be the most needed, and I'm going to work myself down. So I went linebacker. They can use at least 3 or 4 linebackers, including edge rushers, and they still must decide on whether to re-sign 3 of them, including Fowler. Defensive line, they need 2 more starters to go along with Jarrett. Cornerback, they need to re-sign Oliver and add an impact corner. Running back. Even if they re-sign Patterson, they need a Derrick Henry to lead them. Wide receiver, will they trade Ridley? Even if they keep him, they need 2 more receivers. Safety, even if they re-sign Harmon or Harris, they should get 1 more long-term safety. Quarterback, when will they look for their next franchise quarterback? And offensive tackle, if they don't re-sign Gono, they will need a depth swing tackle. So those are my little tiny notes there. And you're going to help me to understand whether or not some of that, most of that is nonsense or close to being kind of okay. So let's start, first of all, on offense. And you said this last year, and you said if they're going to go in on Matt Ryan and they're going to just do it, that this is going to be more than just for 2021. So are they set now? Where you think that they're just going to ignore the position altogether again for another offseason, or they try to use one of their middle round picks to see if they can find, a Davis Mills type?
I mean, I think my gut is telling me that they want to take somebody at 43, or if they were to get an extra first round pick from like a Ridley trade, I think they would. I think they really like Desmond Ritter. So like
they're serious about this now.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I think they would like to take Desmond Ridder uh, in the second round, but also I think they would consider it because I don't think it's likely he falls to 43. There's just too many teams at the end of the first round, early second round that also would probably like to take a stab on somebody. Um, but I think, if they get an extra first rounder that's late in the first round from a Ridley trade, the Patriots really want Ridley from what people are telling me. I think the chances of the Falcons getting that 21st pick from the Patriots are, in terms of, overall trade percentages, that's the one that's most likely to happen, in my opinion, is the Patriots trade for Ridley. So if they were to get 21, I think they would strongly consider taking Ridder there if the Steelers pass on him. I mean, me personally, I would be fine taking Malik Willis at 8. I'm super high on Willis. I love Willis. I think Willis is a potential
At
special
8.
quarterback. At 8, I would do it. He's
Oh,
so impressive.
but that's
He
you.
That's me. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know that they will. They might. They would have taken Trey Lance at 4 last year, from what we've heard. They were in on Trey Lance. They weren't as in on anyone else at 4. I mean,
Yeah, we
I'm
talked
sure they would
about
have been
that.
in on
Yeah.
Trevor Lawrence, but he wasn't going to be there. So, um, I think this team is serious about BPA. I mean, I think obviously you don't know how they grade quarterbacks and what sort of curve there is, but Malik Willis is the best quarterback in terms of ceiling. I think they're chasing ceiling there. I don't think they're going to go for someone like a Kenny Pickett, because if you just want Kenny Pickett, just stay with Matt Ryan for 2 or 3 more years. And I think that's what Kenny Pickett gives you, and that's not bad.
Sure.
But I don't really understand. I don't really personally understand taking Pickett when you have Matt Ryan on the roster, as long
Okay.
as you want him. That's why I prefer someone like Malik Willis or Desmond Ridder, these sort of ceiling guys that you can ideally they would be behind Ryan for a year, sort of like a Alex Smith, Patrick
That makes
Mahomes, and
sense.
then you would try to trade Ryan in 2023. And go with that guy next year. I don't know how serious they are about that. I mean, they've said that they like the quarterback class. They've said that they would consider trading Ryan this year if the offer was good enough. But you know, who knows how honest those statements are? You never really know for
Well,
sure. But
cap
I think
wise,
they're
is it?
yeah.
Can they do that?
I mean, sure they can. They still save 8 million even if they were to trade Ryan before June 1st. I mean, they have to eat 40 million in dead cap, but if they're going with a new quarterback and they are seriously willing to trade Ryan, then it's obvious they're not trying to win this year. So I think they would be okay with eating all that cap this year and sort of trying to compete next year if that's what they want to do. But they have been extremely wishy-washy about what their actual plan is. They keep saying, "Oh, we're going to straddle it. We're going to sort of compete and rebuild." And like sooner or later, I
Yeah.
feel like they're going to have to decide what they want to do.
I don't
But
like it
I
when
don't
they
think
say
we
that.
know yet.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's not good.
They just don't want to commit to anything. And I think they'll see how the board falls, see if they do get someone they want at 8 or 43 or wherever they end up picking. Um, and if they do get the guy they want, then they might listen to more serious offers for Ryan. And the way the quarterback class, the veteran class, is shaking out, I mean, Matt Ryan could easily be the best guy out there at this point. Like if Russell Wilson's staying put, Aaron Rodgers staying put, no one's seemingly willing to touch Deshaun Watson with a 10-foot pole, and then it's like Jimmy G, Kirk Cousins, or Matt Ryan, the one that's proven he can get you to the Super Bowl and probably should have won the Super Bowl if not for the defense falling apart. Is Matt Ryan. I don't think Jimmy G offers you that kind of ceiling, and I don't think. I mean, Kirk Cousins, I guess you could argue does, but
What would the
yeah,
Falcons take for Matt Ryan?
I would say the minimum offer is a first this year and then a conditional first next year.
Wow, really?
Yeah,
Okay, so if
yeah.
they don't get a first round draft pick, they're not trading him.
No, they won't just do it. I don't really think they want to, but the vibe we were getting from the press conference was make us a good enough offer and we would consider trading him. And if he is the best quarterback out there in the free agent market, they've made it clear he's available for the right offer. It's teams get desperate, especially if this is after the draft. Say Pittsburgh doesn't get the guy they want at 20, they're sitting there like, oh crap, we need a quarterback. Did they come calling after that? Who knows? I mean,
Okay.
most likely it'll be before the draft.
Sure.
That's when trades usually happen.
Yeah.
But, I don't think it's super likely that he gets traded. But the more of these quarterbacks we hear that are staying put and not on the market,
true.
the more likely it becomes that someone comes with a crazy offer.
And so Matt Ryan, because at his age, at 36, and he'll be 37 soon.
Yeah, he'll be 37 during the season.
During the season. So we're talking about somebody then that must be in good shape. and that has aspirations of playing football for another 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, I think he could play till he's 40. I mean, he's always been one of the most durable quarterbacks. He's only missed a handful of games his entire career. He's not a quarterback that's been predicated on arm strength or mobility, so he seems like one of those guys that's going to have a longer career arc because he's not dependent on those things. He's always been more of a cerebral, pocket passer type.
Sure.
So I think if he goes to somewhere like Cleveland or to Pittsburgh, who's got an offensive line, who's got a running game, who's got the weapons around him, he could, help you compete immediately. I don't think anyone's calling for Matt Ryan if they're not hoping to compete like this year, next year, sort of thing.
Absolutely. So. And so again, what that means is that on the books, as far as the cap, it's an $8 million difference.
Savings.
Yeah. But the team, the owner, is basically losing $40 million. He's basically giving $40 million away for nothing.
Well, you're paying him $40 million to not play for you. It's all prorated bonus money, basically, at this point. So it's already been paid out. But, the team actually trading for Ryan is getting him at a bargain, too. I mean, I think $24 million would be his cap hit this year for the team trading for him. Okay. Next year would be like $27 million. So that's, 15th, 16th in terms of NFL contract for quarterbacks. Okay. So that's a bargain for a franchise quarterback. So it's possible, like the financials, a lot of people are like, oh, he has a $48 million cap hit. No one's trading for that, but people don't realize that's not how much he's getting paid this year. Most of that's bonus money, restructures, and all this that the Falcons have to pay either way. So the team trading for him isn't going to be on the hook for that money. Yeah, they're going to get him at a discount. So that's another reason why it might be advantageous, for a team trading for him, is that they don't have to go out and pay somebody $35 million on the open market. They can get Matt Ryan for $24 million this year. So
okay. Running back. So, first of all, Patterson, odds of him coming back?
I mean, I think he's one of the guys they would like to re-sign the most, if not the guy they would like to re-sign the most on offense. I think it's above 50% he comes back, but I think they were saying they were kind of willing to let him see what his other offers were. I think they'll offer him $6 million a year to stay. I would be okay with offering him a 3-year deal at that amount, give him some long-term security. 3 years, $18 million, something like that. I don't think the offers for him will be that much better on the open market. He is going to be 31. He's a running back that's over 30. Yeah, obviously he offers you more than just a running back, but I don't think the market will be all that robust. I think he could get some big 1-year offers. Like I think teams could come with like a 1-year $10 million deal or something like that. But if he wants the security of a multi-year deal, I think Atlanta's probably his best bet for that. And apparently he loves Atlanta, wants to stay. So, I'm hoping they can make it work. It's going to be pretty difficult in terms of continuity with this offense. And we're going to talk about it at wide receiver, I'm sure, in a minute. But they need to bring some pieces back, or it's going to be like a whole new group again. So I think Patterson is one guy they would really like to have back. But they're not going to be able to break the bank for anyone.
Okay. So even if they bring Patterson back, this has still got to be a position at some point that they have to take a look at. But the running back position is still a position, especially where the Falcons are right now. They're not in a position with all the needs they have where they can afford to spend a high draft pick on a running back. Mm-hmm. And since that's the case, we should definitely, I don't know about free agency unless there's a name out there like a diamond in the rough you're going to bring up. But as far as the draft is concerned, what are we looking at? Like rounds 3 through 5 that they'll probably target one. And if so, anybody out there that you've got your eye on?
Yeah, I mean, I think that 4th round pick that they have, early 4th, is sort of where you're eyeing there being great value at the running back position. There always is running backs. There always are running backs that fall there. This year, the guys I would have circled would be like Damian Pierce from Florida. Awesome at the Senior Bowl. Someone that could do it all for you and who doesn't have a lot of tread on the tires either, because Florida just criminally underused him. Nope. Can you still see me? Okay. I lost the feed there for a second. Sorry.
Yeah, you're frozen on my screen, but I can hear you.
Sorry. All right. We're back. We're back, everyone.
You've been there. Pierce. You've been there all along.
Oh, yeah. Damian Pierce, I love. He's someone that may have even lifted himself into day 2 with how well he played at the Senior Bowl.
Sure.
But we'll see. Hassan Haskins got hurt at the Senior Bowl, but I still love him. He obviously fits Arthur Smith's style a lot. Big, physical runner. I love Rashad White too from Arizona State, another
Oh,
Senior Bowl guy.
I'm a big fan of him. Yes.
Yeah. So he's someone I think will be there in the 4th round. I know they like Brees Hall. Even, later guys could be like Tyler Algier from BYU, another big physical guy. So I think if they bring back Patterson, I think they're looking for someone to sort of take on the running role that's going to be the primary ball carrier, rusher. Obviously, I think they'd like to get guys that can do more than just run the ball, but I think you'll see them target a more of a physical grinder type of guy over a 3rd down back if they keep Patterson. If they don't keep Patterson, I think they'll just take the best runner available. And that could be guys like Kyron Williams or James Cook or all these guys. But I think it's going to be that 4th round pick. That's where I would target it. That's where, no matter what, every mock draft I do, there's somebody good there, whether it's White or Damian Pierce or whatever. There's always somebody good there. I think you could just wait till that pick, and you're going to get somebody good that's going to be a big boost to your running back core.
Okay, let's talk about those receivers. First of all, tight end. Now, we know how successful it was for Kyle Pitts last season, and he's locked in. Do they just bring back Hayden Hurst cheap, and then they're pretty set, or do they let him go and they just try to bring in, a cheap veteran or maybe even a later round draft pick?
I think this is sort of a sneaky need. And I think they would actually consider it on day 2 because of this tight end class. This is not a class that has Kyle Pitts, but this is a class that has 6 or 7 guys that could all be really good tight end 2s, maybe even tight end 1s. Obviously with Kyle Pitts here, they don't need him to be the primary tight end, but Arthur Smith is a guy that's going to try to run through 2 tight ends. He ran, I think, 12 personnel at the highest rate, or the 2nd highest rate of anyone in the NFL, almost as much as 11 personnel. Which is a big deal in this NFL whenever some teams run, 11 or 60+% of the time. Falcons run it like 33%, then run, 12 the same amount. So they're going to run 2 tight end sets or more. I think they actually, if you take 13 sets into account, they actually run more multiple tight end sets than 11. So the 2nd tight end is a starter for this team. And that 3rd round pick in particular, this team just needs weapons, whether it's receiver or tight end. I don't think it really matters. They have to get multiple weapons here. And I think they would consider adding a veteran. I don't really think they're interested in Hurst anymore. I think they're sort of ready to move on there. I don't think he offers enough as a blocker to be that guy, to be honest with you. So I think Hurst will want to go someplace where he can be the receiving tight end. But this is such a good draft class for tight end. I would target the draft first and then maybe scour, free agency after the draft if you miss out. But, Cade Otton I really like. Trey McBride, obviously, if he sticks around. There's so many good ones. Jeremy Rucker, I mean, he's not working out at the combine. Doesn't matter. He's someone that's going to be a lot better than he was in college. And you have guys all the way into the late rounds with Charlie Kolar, and some of these other guys too. So Daniel Bellinger, Greg Dulcich. I mean, there's so many good tight ends in this class. If you just are patient, you can get a good tight end too to complement Pitts and not have to break the bank either. So
okay. So let's get going here with Ridley. So you believe. Well, first of all, what are the odds that Ridley will be traded?
I think Ridley's 75% or more chance he'll be traded. I think it's almost a done deal at this point. They can't finalize it until the league. I would not be shocked if there's already a deal in place, to be honest with you.
And New England
I have it on good authority that it's the Patriots, but I don't know. The Patriots really want him, is what I was told by someone I trust. So I don't know. Obviously, we don't know if it's actually going to go through, but the interest is legitimate. And I don't believe the Falcons would consider less than a 1st round pick for Ridley because I think the market is a lot better than people think. I think it's almost a done deal in terms of will it happen or not. Yes, I think it's going to happen. So I'm going through the offseason with the assumption that Ridley's not in Atlanta.
Okay. So if that's the case, they get back some draft compensation, which would be much needed. Again, if you take a look at the rest of the receiving unit, as far as the top 3 are free agents. One restricted free agent, Gage and Sharp, but the other free agents, unrestricted guys. So Gage is really the top free agent, the guy that they really want to bring back. Would I be correct there? And do you think that he will be back?
It depends on the offers he gets. I think they'll let him test the market. I think again they'll offer him like probably $6 million a year or something like that. a reasonable like wide receiver 2-3 sort of contract, which is what he is. I think he could get better offers than on the open market. So I suspect that he'll probably leave in free agency just because I don't expect him to take less to stay in Atlanta. But I think they would like to have him back. He did show that he could play on the outside more, which is needed in Arthur Smith's scheme. The slot is not a priority for Arthur Smith's offense. So I think generally his offenses try to go cheap at the slot receiver position. I think the Falcons have a slot that they like in undrafted free agent Austin Trammell. He was active a few games toward the end of the year. He didn't get any targets or play a lot of snaps, but I think that's a guy like they want someone cheap to play the slot. So Gage would have to be an outside guy. He showed that he could do that. He did it a lot as the year went on. So he does fit in this offense. But again, I think we've seen the archetype that Arthur Smith wants, and he prefers the big bodied guys. That's his preference. So I think Gage is probably going to get a better offer elsewhere, but they will, I think, try to re-sign him. And then with those other guys, I would definitely bring back Zaccheaus. Obviously, he's probably not worth a tender considering how expensive the tenders are, and I don't think he's really going to have that robust of a market. But I would re-sign Zaccheaus. I would bring back Sharp too, because I think Sharp was just a solid option. So that way you at least have some continuity there.
Sure.
And then they're going to draft someone for sure, probably high. We've heard that it could be Treylon Burks at 8. I think that's very aggressive. And it's not that I don't like Burks. I just think there's not really a top 10 receiver in this class. But if they get a pick from Ridley, say 21 from the Patriots, that could be a perfect place also to take a receiver. You might have your pick of Burks, Drake London, who I really like, Chris Olave. Those would be my top 3 targets in terms of what the Falcons probably are looking for. But the second round pick, 43, is a great spot too, because this is a deep class. There's 10 guys I would all consider to be like fringe first round talents. Christian Watson from North Dakota State is another guy that I would really want at 43, especially after he blows up the combine today. So,
okay. Hot off the presses.
Yeah.
All right. But bottom line is they're going to need at least 2 premium receivers to add
they're
to
probably
this.
Gonna sign someone too if they don't get Gage. So.
Either free agency or the draft. They got to add 2 premium guys at wide receiver. Okay, at least. Okay, and then again, it all depends on what happens to Gage as well. All right, the offensive line. Now I look at this offensive line. They were very durable, which was nice.
Yeah,
it's always nice when you're
like the only nice thing you could say, but
yeah, I guess okay. All right, starting at tackle. So. What's the jury on Caleb McGarry?
He's okay.
So they can live with him at right tackle.
They can live with him, but this is the final year of his rookie deal. I seriously doubt they're going to pick up his option. So that means you're either going to have to pay him next year or find a new guy. And my instinct right now with the whole offensive line is that they will sign a free agent guard to compete with Jalen Mayfield, who, to be fair to Mayfield, absolutely thrown to the wolves, never played guard in his life.
Yeah.
Never even played on the left side in his life, at least as far as I know. They made him start day one at left guard, and it was not pretty. But Mayfield did stick it out. I think that shows a lot of mental toughness. I think you're hoping that he can get better, but I think depending on that is really risky. So I think they need to bring in.
But it's a good point because, like you're saying, going with the veteran free agent, because you're not going to stick a guy like Mayfield, a young, pretty talented player like that into that position and then just throw him away. Yeah. So he's there for a reason, but like you said, they need insurance.
Yeah, so they'll probably sign some sort of. I know a lot of Falcons fans want James Daniels. I also want James Daniels, but that's because he can play center too. So you basically say this is the Thunderdome, Matt Hennessy, Drew Dahlman, Jalen Mayfield. Survival of the fittest, because James Daniels starting at either center or guard. So you guys got to figure it out. We'll see what happens there. I think they have so many draft picks already invested in the interior that I don't think they're really going to spend another one there. Okay. At tackle, however, I think is a different story. I think they're going to draft a tackle probably pretty high because this is, again, a deep tackle class on day 2. So, someone like a Daniel Falele at 43 would be awesome. Let him sit for a year behind McGarry and take over next year. Maybe have him drop 10, 20 pounds, get to that, just so he's only 360, Daniel Falele, he's over 380 right now, but, have him drop a little weight so he can be a little bit better in the zone scheme, get acclimated to the NFL and take over right tackle next year. That would be my personal choice. But there's a lot of guys that could be there. Nicholas Petit-Frere from Ohio State. We know he can play both tackle spots. Bernard Raymond from Central Michigan, another developmental guy they could get probably later on day 2. So I think you take a developmental guy who's probably going to be your swing tackle this year, let him sit for a year, and then let McGarry walk in free agency next year. Hopefully he's great and he gets a massive contract and you reap like a 3rd round comp pick out of it. But I think that the drafting of the tackle is a better plan because paying both Jake Matthews and McGarry is not really going to work. And they've sort of signaled that they're maybe planning to extend Matthews this year. So if they're extending Matthews, they're definitely not paying McGarry.
Okay. And before we move over to defense, special teams, is the place kicker and punter, they're both free agents?
Yes.
So are they going to bring them both back?
I would. I mean, I would offer Younghoe Koo, $4 million a year. Which is the same amount. He's a restricted free agent, so I mean they could tender him if he is acting like he's not going to take the offer. But I think you just offer him, $3.5-4 million per. And then with the punter Thomas Morstead, I would definitely bring him back. He was very good. I have no idea why the Jets cut him. Honestly, speaking of the Jets,
well, that's because they've got their young guy. That's why.
Yeah, but Morstead was maybe the
he did punt well for the Jets.
Punter. Yeah, he was maybe the 2nd or 3rd best punter in the league for the Falcons once he came to Atlanta. So, I mean, obviously he's getting towards the end of his career, but I think you sign him for a few more years. And Matt Bosher kicked for the Falcons until he was like 42. So. Punters have a lot of longevity in this league, so I would just stick with don't make a problem where you don't need to make a problem. Just keep your special teams intact and spend the resources elsewhere.
Now, last year when we talked about the transition with the roster on defense and Dean Pease, and even though he's more of a 3-4 guy, there would have to be some patience, and it just wasn't going to be pretty. And obviously, it wasn't. So. Besides Grady Jarrett up front in the front 7, are there any other players that are, I don't know, I don't want to say franchise players, but guys that are definitely part of the future?
I mean, they're probably still hoping to get something from Marlon Davidson. He's been disappointing, but this regime didn't draft him, so I don't know how serious they are about giving him, more reps if he doesn't prove something. But I know they Taquan Graham, their I think 5th or 6th rounder from last year, really came on towards the end of the year. I think they're hoping for big things from him. Obviously, he hasn't really done it consistently yet, but I do think he's someone that they like a lot. And then Ade Ogundiji, another late round pick, they had him playing, almost starter snaps towards the end of the year. Again, didn't really have a great season, but he was always a developmental guy, really high athletic ceiling. They're going to be hoping he takes a step forward. They already cut Fowler. He wasn't technically under contract next year anyway. It was a void year, but obviously Fowler's not coming back. Steven Means, I don't think, is coming back. They don't really have a lot at edge, at all. They need 3 players probably. I think Ogundiji can be one. They're probably going to sign somebody in free agency. I don't think it's going to be. I know a lot of people are talking about Harold Landry. First of all, I don't think Harold Landry's leaving the Titans, but they're not going to.
He's worth it. No, he's going to ask for a lot of money.
Yeah, but I mean, again, I don't think that's worth it. I think they're going to sign some sort of mid-range guy, maybe even 2, and then draft. I would consider drafting 2 edges, one at 8 and then one again on day 2, because this is a super deep class. I'm all in on Jermaine Johnson. I'd take him at 8 in a heartbeat. He's awesome, because they're not going to have Thibodeau or Hutchinson there. So I think Johnson's the best fit out of those other guys.
So you're telling me though that this is still going to be more like like the way everybody talks about the new defense nowadays. It's not a 3-4. It's not a 4-3. You're just going to find the best available players, and that's how it's going to be. This isn't going to be a traditional 3-4.
I mean, they're going to run more 3-4 looks than not, but I think it's much more flexible than it used to be.
I asked that because if they go ahead and draft Johnson, where are they playing him?
Oh, they're playing him as a stand-up outside linebacker.
Okay. Okay.
And I think he'd be great there. He showed it off at the Senior Bowl. He stood up plenty at Florida State. So I mean, he's definitely got the. He's not like a true ultimate
True edge rusher,
bender
but yeah.
like a Brian Burns, but
Yeah.
he's got plenty of it, and he's so strong. He's gonna
I like
blast.
him too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
So I mean, he's so technical too. I just love Jermaine Johnson. So I have no qualms at all. Not every 3-4 outside linebacker has to be Brian Burns style, Von Miller style, just run around you. He's bendy enough, and with his power and everything else, I think he'll be just fine.
Okay, and so that's so bottom line is anytime you're going to run pretty much a 3-4 defense, you better have good edge rushers, and that's going to be something the Falcons are definitely going to have to look at. Now, what about inside? Because it would be confusing for anybody that doesn't follow the Falcons, and they look statistically at Olakun, and they see he had 192 tackles. 7 quarterback hits, 4 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, 3 interceptions. Well, that sounds like he had a very good season. According to Pro Football Focus, he did not. So there's always that in between. You watch the Falcons obviously play every game, every play. Is he somebody that is definitely? Do those numbers make sense? Were those real numbers? Or that wow, yeah, this guy is. I don't know what Pro Football Focus is thinking. He's better than that. They have to re-sign him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Pro Football Focus. I don't really like their linebacker grades at all. I've never really thought their linebacker grades were good. I think they have good grades for a lot of things, but I've never really believed in their linebacker grades. I mean, they love Michael Walker, who plays about 10 snaps per game. I mean, he's one of their highest rated linebackers. I don't see it on tape. Foye, on the other hand, I mean, I don't think Foye's like a top 10 linebacker in the NFL or anything like that, but he's definitely above average.
How do you pronounce his last name?
Aluakin.
Aluakin. Okay.
Yeah. It's a tough one.
No, it's not bad. Aluakin.
Yeah. So I think he's the top defensive free agent, obviously, for the Falcons. I think they really want him back, but again, if he gets 10 million plus offers, I don't think they can match it.
Okay.
But I think he is a priority for them. I think they would really like to have him back because the other side of the coin is I think they would like to trade Deion Jones if they could get someone to take on that contract. He's just not an ideal fit in the D&P's defense. He's also making a lot of money. Obviously, if they were to trade him, they would lose, 10 million or whatever. They'd save 9. So, and the team trading for Deion Jones only has to pay him about 10 million. So that's pretty, fair market value. But I think he needs to go to a system that fits him, like a Dan Quinn system, and maybe the Cowboys could be interested, maybe the Jets even, if they really wanted a linebacker. I don't know if they're interested in paying someone that much at linebacker, but
okay.
I think Deion Jones is still a good player. I don't think he's a good fit in a 3-4, and the lack of effort was a little bit jarring, considering he's such a fiery personality usually. So I sort of think that Dean Pease is a guy that I think doesn't really tolerate that. So I think he's probably going to want him gone for the lack of effort last year. But I think Deion Jones is still good. I think he'll have a market. But so I think if they can trade Deion Jones, they'd be willing to pay Foye, $8 million per year or so, maybe even a little bit more. But it's basically a 1-for-1 trade, and then you have another hole at linebacker with Deion gone. They do have Michael Walker, like I said. I mean, I think Michael Walker's fine, but
why did his production go down last year? Because he had what appeared to be a promising rookie season.
I mean, I think he was fine. He honestly didn't play all that much. No. They stuck with 2 linebackers pretty much all the time. That's true. A lot of people thought Michael Walker was going to get some 3-4 outside linebacker reps. He didn't really at all. So he was really just the third linebacker. And honestly, Foye and Deion Jones didn't really miss much time. So he just didn't have to see the field a lot. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's possible he could be the starter next to Foye next year. But I think they'll also bring in someone in the draft, probably sign someone too. Like if, Rashaan Evans and Jayon Brown from the Titans, both of them are free agents now. Both have experience with DMPs. I think if they miss on Foye, they'll definitely look to bring one of those guys in too. So linebackers, there's always a bunch of them out there, especially in the draft. So I think they'll plan to draft or sign someone and then hope to get Foye back as well.
Okay, now, as far as the secondary is concerned, you mentioned Terrell. And they went and spent a couple of draft picks last year on Hall and Williams. So, first of all, does Oliver get re-signed?
I mean, I hope so. I can't expected his market would be too robust considering he's coming off a season-ending injury, and
Yep.
he did look good, but it was like a 4-game sample size, so
Yeah,
I
that's true.
doubt teams are going to be tripping over themselves to sign him. I would definitely sign him. I mean, I would offer him like a 3-year deal at $3 million per if he'd be willing to take that, just because, if he ends up hitting, that's gonna be a bargain.
Sure.
But we'll see. He might just want a prove it deal, because if he thinks he's going to be really good, he can go get paid after that. That's fine too. But yeah, I think re-signing him is a priority. Darren Hall and Avery Williams, I think those are both probably more slot guys. Avery Williams is a special teamer. I mean, he's fine as like a emergency reserve. I don't think he's ever someone that's going to start or that you'd want to start. He's just too small. But he's a great punt returner. He was very good this year. He took over kick returning too. Patterson didn't have to do it anymore because he was good enough. He didn't. He's not as like elite as Patterson, but they wanted to protect him since he was literally their offense.
Nobody is.
Kyle Pitts. So, Williams is a special teamer. I think Darren Hall is probably their backup plan if Oliver doesn't come back at the slot spot. But I would bring back Fabian Moreau too, because I don't think he'll be expensive, and he was a solid outside guy across from Terrell. But you're going to be looking to upgrade on Moreau. So if that's a dark horse at 8. Obviously, if their top edge guys are gone, if they don't want to take Malik Willis, Kyle Hamilton's not there. Corner could be the best player available. I think Andrew Booth or Sauce Gardner would both be great options there. So that could be an option too if they can't trade out of that pick and they're stuck there looking at who's the best available.
Okay.
So that would be obviously fun to get an elite secondary going with that pick, but we'll just to see who's there.
All right, and then again at safety, the two of the main guys in time last year are both free agents and they're in their 30s. So, do you think either Harmon and or Harris will be back?
Yeah, there was some speculation that Harmon was actually retiring. I don't know if that's legit or not.
Okay.
But Harris would be the one I'd bring back either way. Had that season-ending injury, so he'll be really cheap. He can play in the box. He can play cover 2. He's versatile. He played pretty well, honestly, considering what they paid for him. So I think they would bring him back to be their third safety. Obviously, Richie Grant is expected to be a starter this year, or I would at least hope he was expected to be a starter.
The second round, yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And then I think Jalen Hawkins showed promise too.
Okay.
Their 4th rounder from 2020. He ended up starting a bunch towards the end of the season. I don't think Hawkins is like a great starter, but I think he's solid. So I think if you went into the year with Hawkins and Grant as your 2 starters, that's okay. Obviously, they'd like to add another safety to that group, but that's probably one that's going to have to wait unless Kyle Hamilton's there or something like that at 8, which would be awesome. So I would definitely sign on for that, but I doubt it.
Yeah, the way things are going, you're probably right about that. He probably won't be there. Okay, so give me a surprise pick at number 8.
Yeah, I mean, I said Malik Willis already, so I'll try to do a different one. But I mean, I think they would consider it.
I think that would be a surprise, even though you never know with quarterbacks. It's just every year, doesn't it seem like it's the same thing?
Yes.
Like by December, November, when you start hearing things about the upcoming draft, there's always going to be a quarterback or two that's the second round guy. Then you rest assured, soon as you get to this time of year, those guys that were in the second round shoot up the draft boards, and not only they in the middle rounds, but they might even be a top 10 pick. So it's just crazy, and we understand the value of the quarterbacks, and that's why you always have to overgrade and where they're going to go because they're quarterbacks. But it's incredible how just a month or two ago everybody was talking about how bad the class was, and none of these quarterbacks are going to get drafted in the top 10, let alone top 15 or even top 20. And I wouldn't be surprised now if we got 3 quarterbacks drafted in the top 20.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's always this class isn't good enough. These guys are going to last, and it never works. It's quarterbacks always go quick. Like Carolina's all, we're going to take the best player available at 6. No, they're taking Kenny Pickett. All right, you can write that in pen. Okay, that Matt Rule's basically a lame duck if they don't take Kenny.
If they don't get their free agent gem then they are definitely drafting
Which
Pickett.
they're not. Like
Yeah.
they don't have enough money. They're already paying Sam Darnold almost 20 million. So like, where's this giant quarterback contract coming from? Are they trading for Kirk Cousins? Is that going to solve all their problems? Like they
No, it's
barely have
not.
any picks as it is this year.
Yeah,
So
they don't want Kirk Cousins. Yeah,
no.
they want
So
a sexy pick, a sexy guy.
yeah. So like they're going to pretend like they don't want Kenny Pickett because they don't want anyone to trade in front of them, but they're taking Kenny Pickett. So I don't think the Falcons would be that interested in Pickett anyway, just because of what I said earlier.
Sure.
They're going to be chasing ceiling, and I think they're okay taking a project a little bit, because they have Matt Ryan. So
let's say it's not Willis. Give me another surprise.
I mean, to me, my top quarterback for the Falcons specifically is actually Andrew Booth, because the Falcons don't just play zone or man. They're not, so I don't think they're going to prioritize sauce as much as a team that's going to primarily play, press zone and press man, that sort of thing. The Falcons are going to run mixed coverages, and that's why I really like Andrew Booth, because he's so good in both man and zone. He's really versatile. Now he doesn't have the size of a sauce, but they already have Terrell, who's a big corner. So,
as far as Booth is concerned, he's very hard to figure out because you hear about the statistics and you hear some good statistics, but then you hear some questionable statistics, and then the only statistics that you are aware of are interceptions, and you don't see a boatload of those. But anyway, he just seems to be one of these prospects that you don't know if he's going in the top 10 or if he's going to be picked, at 30 or 35. It's just I don't know where to expect this kid to go.
Yeah. Same thing as AJ Terrell, honestly, right? Like a lot of people thought he was a second rounder. Falcons take him at 15, and then after the draft, you hear, oh yeah, like 5 teams had him in the top 20. So, it's just one of those things. I think it depends on the team. Like I grade players on a curve for the Falcons because I know what they want for their schemes and whatnot. So, to me, I think they would value someone like Booth higher. They also, I think, are willing to roll the dice on Booth's, somewhat limited production because he hasn't been a starter for that long, as opposed to needing like a day one, lockdown cornerback one, because they have Terrell already. So they don't need Booth to come in and match up with Mike Evans in week 2 or whatever.
Couldn't they trade down then at that point?
I think, yeah. I mean, I would love that. Like, that would be if Kyle Hamilton's not there and they're not taking Malik Willis, then I think they should trade down. But it's always, does that work out? Does another team want to come up? That's really the only thing about trading down. I would love it. I do trade downs pretty frequently in mock drafts. And I think
with Denver at 9, and they need a quarterback.
Exactly. Yeah. So. That's what the Falcons don't say. Pickett goes at 6. Teams then they start to get a little itchy at quarterback, right? Yes. Then the Falcons come around. We're like, oh, we like Malik, but if you give us a good enough offer, we might be convinced to trade you the pick. You can get in front of Denver. So, I mean, I think there's definitely scenarios where the Falcons could be a sought after pick, particularly if the Giants pass, at 7 or whoever has 7. I can't remember if it's the Giants or the Jets, but
Giants.
It is the Giants. Yeah. So like at that point, I think they could have suitors, and I think they would not require an arm and a leg, to trade down. But, Washington is one I've traded down with. Pittsburgh obviously is one that might be trying to get up there for somebody. Some people have said the Vikings might want to get up because they're trying to move Cousins and all this. So I think a trade down would be great. I think this regime is much more likely to consider it than Dimitrov, who only ever traded down like one time in his entire career. Okay. So Fontenot's already traded down as many times as Dimitrov, I believe, because he did it last year in the second round. So they know this team needs depth. They would love to get extra picks. So I think they would definitely consider a trade down. That's probably one of the things they're seriously working on if their top guys aren't there at 8.
And as far as their picks, how many picks do they have?
I believe they have 8.
Okay.
Because they have
every round?
They do, except for the 7th. They traded a 7th for Lee Smith, but they do have the Titans' second rounder from the Julio Jones trade, and they will be getting almost certainly a compensatory 6th from the Alex Mack signing. So they'll have 8 total picks.
Okay. So early on, though, it's right now the way it stands. There's going to be 3 picks, like in the top 50?
Top 58. Yeah, because the Titans pick is 58. Yeah.
And then if they can trade Ridley, which is going to happen, another pick comes.
Yep, probably a first or like a day 2 and something next year, probably. But
and if somehow they don't, like you said, if they don't get the guy they want and they're able to trade down, and maybe a team thinks they need to jump over Denver for a quarterback, then maybe they all of a sudden you got 12 or 13 draft picks.
yeah, I mean, I think they would love that, and it makes a lot of sense considering where they are financially
Absolutely.
and in the rebuilds. I mean, I think they would love to do that. So, if they could pick up, say they trade down with Pittsburgh and they get 2 day 2 picks out of it, then they've got 5 picks in the top 100. So it's like that's how you reshape your roster.
Absolutely.
They're obviously not all going to hit, but
that's
3 of them
the Jets
hit.
are doing
That's
it.
Great. Yeah. So I mean, I think they would love to do that. I think you could also see them covet 2022 first rounders in particular if they don't go for a quarterback this year. So I wouldn't rule out the Ridley trade featuring a 2023 first and then something on day 2 this year, like a third or something. Or like, if they were to do a trade down, they like with Pittsburgh, they might say, oh, you can keep your second rounder, but we want your next year's first or something like that.
Got it.
Because if they don't take a quarterback, they're going to have to get into this, CJ Stroud, Bryce Young sweepstakes, and you're going to have ammo to do that.
That's true. Yeah. That is going to be interesting to see if they both come out at the same time, which is quite possible. But yeah, I guess this is a little bit of a lull, but even though talent may be okay, but still that's not going to preclude teams from using several first-round draft picks on quarterbacks this season because it just happens. So.
Oh yeah.
Matter of fact, I remember watching an East-West game. I think it was an East. Yeah, no, it might have even been a Senior Bowl and an East-West in the same year a few years ago. I don't remember what it was, and I just remember being so disgusted by what I was looking at the quarterback position that when people started to downgrade this quarterback class, I was going, "What? It's not as bad as they're saying." I mean, I know it's not like 2021, but these guys can play. They're decent quarterbacks.
It's actually a deep group. It's just not a star-studded group.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Kenny Pickett is a day 1 starter. Malik Willis has the ceiling of a top 5 quarterback. He's probably not going to be that for a year or two at minimum, but he has the ceiling of that sort of player. Then you have Desmond Ridder, who I think has a very high ceiling as well. And then you've got a bunch of average starter eventually
Sam
sort of
Howell
guys like
Carson
Howell,
Strong, and you don't know.
Oral. I mean, these guys are all like probably solid NFL starters if they go to the right spot. So I mean, there's depth here. Whereas last year it was like you have these top 4 guys that are all maybe franchise quarterbacks, and then it was nothing. Like it was Kyle Trask, and that's it.
Yeah. Well, so, Tampa Bay, we'll see if they think they're as smart as they maybe thought they were. But
I think we
know.
can.
I don't think Kyle Trask could be starting week 1 for the Bucs.
I don't think Kyle Trask's going to be starting ever.
Oh, wow, that's a bad pick then.
That's I mean, he's a backup. That's what he is. So he can be a good backup, probably.
That's not why you draft a guy in the second round, though. But it happens.
No,
happens a lot, actually.
It does. I mean, if he just turns into a good career 10, 12-year backup, that's not a terrible pick,
Maybe not, as long as he's on your team.
As long as he stays.
All right, Kevin. So what are you working on right now as far as the offseason and the draft? You got your show on YouTube. So when is that available?
So my shows are on Wednesday nights at 8:00 p.m. Eastern time on YouTube. It's called The Falcoholic Live. We also have plenty of Combine coverage coming your way. I just wrapped up my final Combine preview today, which was tight end. But all the other previews of all other positions, except for special teams, are done. So if you go to the site, you can see all of those position previews, get the top 10 or so guys at each position working out at the Combine, give you an idea of some of the guys to watch. And I'll have, mock drafts, everything, free agencies coming, all that good stuff. Just there's constant content. It's all at falcoholic.com.
All right, Kevin. Don't stop believing.
You got to keep the faith. So.
And I also want to congratulate you on your runner-up fantasy football finish.
Yes.
Not a championship, but
very disappointing. But that's how it works. It's just you want to make it to the dance.
Hey,
that's all you can.
It's the first
that's
year.
all you can do. Yeah. I mean, I should have won. My team was better. It just
it
crapped bad in the championship. So, but yeah, I mean, I went with that aggressive, veteran-heavy approach. It did certainly pay off in terms of getting to the championship. Just got to supplement it with some picks here. I mean, we're going to be in good shape.
Yeah, we got to get into that real soon. So we'll do that. Can't wait. Year 1 for our Dynasty League into books, and we'll talk more about that for sure next year, because I'm going to get my hands on it, because I let John do everything last year, and he's like at 28 leagues.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm like,
not hands-on enough. Yeah.
I have to take it over and relieve him of the pressure of having to so I'm gonna and I've never run a league on site before, so I'm gonna get myself acclimated
Sleeper's
to the
awesome.
process.
It's really easy. You'll have a good
should
time.
be. Hey, if I could run a sports network on YouTube by myself, I think I could run a fantasy
in theory.
league.
Yeah.
Exactly, right. All right, sounds good, Kevin. Appreciate it as always, and we'll talk to you for sure no later than right after the draft, so we can get an opportunity to recap the draft and talk about how the Falcons did, and obviously and how free agency went, unless there's some really big story to talk about for just a few minutes, and that could happen with a Ridley trade any day now. So
yep, we will see.
Thanks Kevin.
Mm-hmm.